Hi, it's Laura Morley here from Toddler Talk TV, and I want to say thank you so much for finding some time in your really, really busy day to be able to spend some time hanging out with us. And I tell you what, it's going to be so worth the investment of time, because today we're actually going to be talking about how to get your toddler to listen better. Oh yes, isn't that something that all of us want? And certainly this interview you're going to love, because I found it so useful. I learned a whole lot of stuff that I didn't really know, and being a lot more intentional about teaching our kids about sound. I find personally that we really focus a lot on the visual and pointing things out when we go for walks, but identifying sounds is also an important part of your child's development. Liz Donnelly from Eardrops is an absolute guru when it comes to listening. In fact, she's done her master's on this, so I know that you're going to find something useful. She's also going to be giving you a free download, so if you want to go to our Toddler Talk NZ blog and look for Liz's interview, you'll find a little freebie that she's going to be giving away today. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Hello, Liz. It's so lovely to have you join our episode with our Toddler Talk audience today. And I want to say thank you so much for finding the time in your really, really busy schedule, because I know that you have a family and a whole lot of stuff going on. So I'd love to start with our interview by asking you, what does a typical day look like in your life as Liz? What was your day like maybe this morning or yesterday? How do you normally spend your time?
Wow, hi Laura. My time is fairly busy. I've got 3 children, and so I run a family of 5, a household of 5. So my youngest just started school last term, so things have actually changed for me in the last few months. So my typical day starts at around 5:45, 5:30 in the morning. I get up before everybody else, and I just enjoy that hour of real quiet headspace. So sometimes I go for a walk with a friend. Sometimes I just get up and get on with the jobs and just have this lovely early, easy morning and before everybody gets up and needs me. So I find that really sets me up for my day. And then basically from about 6:30, it's all go with breakfast, school lunches, etc. Chaos to get to school. I come home after that school drop off and have a cup of tea and 10 or 15 minutes of quiet, and then I start work. So I work solidly through the day till about 2:30, go back to school, pick up kids, do after school activities if I need to, get homework sorted, dinner, baths, pick up teenager from sports when my partner gets home at 6:30, and sort of flop down at about 8:30 and go, oh, great. And sometimes do a bit of work then. Or not. I do get
like such a full day. Oh my goodness.
The busy day.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, there's a lot of laughter in between all of that. And now that I'm managing to find the time to use that workspace time in the middle of the day, that's really nice. Because for a while there, it was just all children, all day, every day. And that's lovely, but it's massively busy.
Oh, it sure is. And I'm sure a lot of people who will be watching this will be able to relate to that kind of really crazy toddler time. And I think as parents who have just got over that phase, because my daughter's just turned 6, so I feel like we're kind of in a similar phase where I can say, isn't it great to be able to give people hope and say, you may feel like you're knee deep in nappies and that, there's chaos and crumbs and toys everywhere, but it's not going to be like this forever, and it's just a season, isn't it? So it's kind of nice to know that it is a season that will pass, but also sad to know that too, because I love the toddler stage with, the kids, the way that they love you and you're the centre of their world, and, it's a really special time to be at home with them as well. So it's well worth it.
Yes, they're so gorgeous. I mean, I don't know about you, Laura, but I've got a certain nostalgia. I look back and go, it's been, I mean, my eldest is 15. I've got this 10-year gap between children, 15, 8 and 5. So I've been toddler mumming for so long.
Yeah.
It's sort of elongated out. So yes, it is really different now, but it was so lovely. They're so cute.
Yeah.
And fun.
And tell me about Eardrops, which I know is a little business that you started. How did you come about starting that, and what's the journey look like for you?
Well, Eardrops is my other little baby. when my son was 2, and I became a single mum with him, he's the one that's now 15, I had this idea. He had glue ear, and once we'd resolved that by getting him grommets, which took a while, these things take time and lots of trips to the doctor and sore ears, waking up in the middle of the night. But once we realised he needed grommets, got the grommets, I went to find him some sort of tool to help him learn these words and these sounds that he hadn't heard properly for about a year. Easily a year could have gone by without him hearing properly. And there was just nothing there. So I was working at TVNZ at the time, part-time, and my background was always in children's TV, children's media, children's programming for TV2. So I thought, actually, I could make this. This is something I could actually do, and this would benefit other children as well, because I know New Zealand's got this massive glue ear problem. It's not just me. So I went out with a sound engineer, and we recorded a bunch of sounds, and I created a little character called Eardrop, who is a rabbit who goes around and listens to the sounds, and made these lovely stories which look like this. That's sounds of the country, sounds of the city, so that's Eardrop. Sounds of the home. That one's got Sarah Wiseman on it as Nana, that lots of you will have seen on A Place to Call Home recently.
Yes.
So they're half-hour. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
So they're half-hour stories, and each story has about 30 sounds that the listeners learn. I made them with a team of educators. So there was a speech language therapist. There was an early intervention teacher. So they're the ones that the regional kind of senior early childhood teachers and early primary school teachers. There were 2 really experienced primary school teachers, one of which was a special needs teacher, and then myself with my media background. So we formed quite a good team. So they're very educationally robust. Along the way, we developed a format together that actually cues the child listening to keep listening. So it's actually helping, it teaches them the sounds. It teaches them the very basic words to connect those sounds, the words we use in English, and then it's helping develop their listening skills at the same time.
Okay, so why is it important then that we are intentional with teaching our kids to develop their listening skills? And, why is that important, and what's listening really all about?
Well, to me, and I've done a lot of work on this now, it's been 10 years that I've had eardrops. Listening is the basis of our communication. So if you can listen effectively, you can understand what the other person wants. And if you can communicate your needs back to them, and so if they're listening back to you, you're going to have a happier time. I mean, especially in those toddler years, it's a real frustrating time for the little ones. They don't quite have all the words that they need to describe things. They don't understand their feelings the same as they do when they're older. So a third of kids actually take in information best through their ears anyway. So that's a given that they need to have good listening skills. And you know what? A lot of those kids actually will develop them naturally. And a lot of listening does happen naturally, but you can actually treat it as a conscious process, like you do with learning to read. You can actually learn to listen. So the first thing you need to do, I guess I can go on to that now, is that if you're, as a mum, as a parent, you need to role model good listening yourself. So there's a learning module at schools at the moment. It's called whole body listening. And so it's talking about how you're sitting still, you're looking the person in the eye, you're nodding. When they've finished talking, you're not jumping in to say your thing back. You paraphrase what they've said back, so they're cued that you understand what they're saying, and then you're acknowledging their feelings as well. So it's not just about hearing. Listening is a process. I see it as a craft, and it's a craft we need to start learning from day one, really. And we can all do better, because with today's technology that takes our focus away every 5 minutes, it's nice to just go back to something and focus on that.
Absolutely. I think if we asked our audience right now and we said to them, how many of you would like your child to be a better listener? I think everybody would be waving their hands and saying, yes, Definitely, because I think it's something that we can all relate to so well, where we ask our kids to do things and it feels like it goes in one ear and out the other, and you just don't see them actually change their behavior or do anything different. And it just seems like they're kind of hearing it in the ether, but they're not really processing it. So I'm just wondering if you could give us a couple of tips that would help us to really develop our toddlers' listening.
Sure. I guess the first thing as well to be mindful of is they take a little bit of time to process what they've heard when they're little. So give them the space and the time to say, oh, I've got to pick up my toy. So they've got to sit there and go, oh, toy. Oh, I've got to pick it up. And to an adult, that takes quite a long time. So just slow it all down. Speak clearly. Make sure you've got their attention before you make that request of them. And of course they're going to say, no, I don't want to do it if that's the space that they're in. But you know they've heard you and you know they've understood, so they have listened. So if your goal is to get them to listen, just stop, slow it down, take that time, ask them directly, look at them, hear what they've got to say back to you. So, oh no, I want 5 more minutes or something like that. It's one of those things that's just going to take a long time because they're so little and they're learning so much in those toddler years that just keep patient. I mean, there's little games you can play. I've got a few resources on my Eardrops website, little games you can do which have actually been provided by the Eardrops education team. So if you want to actually take time and go, right, we're going to learn how to listen this morning. We're going to do one of these little games. So you can play hide and seek with them, but you can make a noise to cue where you are. So that's a fun one.
I love that. I'm sure that will be really popular.
Or you can use a whistle. So there's, oh, I have to connect where mum is with that sound or where dad is with that sound. What I used to do, which was really fun, you always want to get out of the house. So you just take your child out of the house and sit down in one spot and ask them to close their eyes and tell you what they can hear. So I think in our busy world, there's always about 10 different sounds going on. So another skill which you need to know before you can be a good listener is you need to know which sounds are important to listen to. So isolating which of the important sounds is something that your toddler will start to do. So you might have the washing machine going in the background when you've asked your toddler to pick up the toys, but they're focused on that sound, or they're focused on a helicopter. They're not focused on your voice. So it's about helping them know that there's lots of layers of different sounds, and actually that distant car going past, oh yes, that's an interesting sound to listen to, but I need you to listen to me at the moment because I'm the caregiver and I'm telling you what to do. So taking a listening walk is really fun. What other games? So you start by listening to a sound. So that's the listening instruction. So very little 1-year-olds, toddling away in their gumboots and listening to things. Then when they get that skill down, you can listen to a sound and an instruction. So that'd be the hide and seek game with the whistle or with the clap. And then later on, you can do kind of a decoding game. Like Simon says, this would be the older end of being a toddler. So they've got to work out what not to listen to at the same time as what they have to listen to. There's all these different levels. But there's lots of those sorts of games on my website.
Great, and we'll put a link to that in our notes on our blog page so that people can, access that. Because that sounds like some really, really practical ideas. And to me, it sounds like things that I could very easily do at home. I don't need a whole lot of equipment. Just a simple walk to the park and, I'm already teaching my kid listening. So I guess it's seeing those learning opportunities and creating a few extra ones into your week where you're actually developing those skills.
Yes, definitely.
And also, when I'm trying to get a toddler to listen, how do I actually do that? Like I get them to give me eye contact. Is there anything else that I need to do to make sure that I know that they understand? Because that's one of the things where, if we use the, pick up the toy example, how do we know that they've really heard and understood what we're kind of saying?
I think you'll have compliance to your request, or you'll have non-compliance. But either way, they've understood what you've said.
Yeah. One of the things that I find really interesting is when I talk to a lot of parents, they are always like, oh, I don't feel like my kid really understands what I'm saying. And I'm like, actually, your kid understands a whole lot more than what you give them credit for.
They do.
You know,
They
even
do.
though they can't verbalize, you know, and say, yes, I understand, I'm going to pick up those toys now. They actually, you know, do understand what you're talking about, eh?
They do. They do. They're so quick to learn. I mean, look at the learning that happens between 0 and 1. It's mind-boggling. So, but at the same time, they are still really little. So just go at their pace. And they need to build that database of words. You do one-on-one talking as often as you can. Once or twice a day, just sit down and talk to them slowly, looking them in the eye. All of this is really important on lots of different levels. It's not just about learning. That's about feeling like you're part of the family and feeling loved and feeling listened to yourself. So it's really important to have that one-on-one time. If you can eat your lunch together and talk across the table about what you've been doing, it's all just great foundations for listening and for being. So later on, if you're a good listener yourself, when you get to school, you're going to be a better friend to your friends because you're going to be able to hear what they want and work together on that. You're going to learn to read a little bit easier because all of those skills just feed into reading later. Yeah, it's a whole raft of different things.
I can really say that in a classroom situation, having been a primary school teacher, those kids who are great listeners and have really good auditory processing skills do so much better within that context, you know, with the noise and the rabble of the classroom. You know, even if you have a reasonably peaceful classroom, it's still a lot of people in one confined space. And I think having those basic skills taught at the toddler years almost sets that beautiful platform and that foundation for them to be really successful as they get older. And I think sometimes we're just in a hurry, you know, to move through the stages instead of actually, you know, enjoying them where they're at. And as you say, just taking that time. I love that piece of advice where you're like, you know, just take the time with them. Find those teachable moments when you're eating your lunch or you're out at the park or, you know, whatever. Yes. And I think that's where it doesn't have to be another thing on the to-do list where you think, oh, I've got to get this done. But it can just be building a relationship and enjoying the company of your child.
Yes, now it's all part of life. It's part of the whole world of the child. And you know, as a mum, I'm quite a visual person, so I'd find myself saying, "Oh, look at the dog," or something to my son when he was little, or my daughters when they were little. But you can also just say, "What do you think that dog sounds like?" So you're starting to say there's a look to something, but there's also a sound to most things. So it's almost like building that vocabulary for them that they know. Oh, that bang that I just heard was actually somebody chopping wood, or just this, all of the stuff around them. Start with the stuff that's actually in their world every day, and then just widen it gradually over the next couple of years. Yeah, and of course, you have lots of sounds on the airdrop stories. Yeah. Each one's got 30 different sounds.
I bet it was an interesting experiment to walk around and find all the different sounds. Yeah, I bet that took you a while. You had to find
it was great. When we made Sounds of the Country, which was the first one, it was on my brother's farm, and then he'd organised another farm down the road that had different animals from him. So we were racing around, you know, shoving a microphone into a flock of hens, you know, going, "Come on, make some noise," calling the cows. It was great. And then Sounds of the City, we walked up and down Queen Street for half a day, recording lots of different things. And in Sounds of the Home was quite straightforward with walking around the home, flushing the toilet, running the tap and boiling the kettle and running the bath.
It's amazing because you just don't think about it. It's just something that innately just happens. But when you isolate those sounds and when you think about all the stuff that goes on, I guess sometimes when we take our toddlers to places, it could be a bit overstimulating because there could just be, you know, the rabble and so much noise, and they have to kind of adjust to that, don't they? So I can imagine particularly if they spend quite a bit of time at home and then they go out to places, that it could be quite an overstimulating environment in terms of visual, but also the auditory.
Yes. I mean, and take them to a cafe, for example, at lunchtime. it's no wonder they have a meltdown, really. When they leave, they've had to choose food, they've had all this stuff happening all around them, and some of it they might be scared of, but they're not quite able to tell you, oh, I don't like the sound of that coffee machine. It's no wonder. And, you know, a lot of kids are actually really sensitive to noise anyway, and I do think we live in a really noisy world these days. So in the home, another tip, I guess, would be just to quieten it down for them.
Yeah, I think one of the things is often we've got technology going in the background. So the TV's blaring, or we've got, you know, music on and the radio on and all these things. And so there's this constant kind of hum in the background, isn't there? And sometimes it's nice to step out of that and actually have peace. And I think that really helps to focus their behaviour and make them, you know, really calm. And calm breeds calm, you know. So I think that sometimes we can, in our really busy days and in our busy worlds, we're moving from one thing to the next, and we get in the car and the radio's on, all the stuff is happening. We're actually missing a lot of stuff because of the technology hum that's constantly going on in the background, eh?
Yes, turn it off if you can.
Yeah.
Definitely turn off things like the news, you know, all of it. It's just too old for them in terms of media. A lot of what's talked about on the radio, they talk really fast, it's loud. Commercial radio I'm talking about, it's just not aimed at them, so they just don't need it in their life. It's just more layers of clutter. So you know, we all work on their environment and putting the toys away or whatever, but it's another thing to be mindful of all those different layers of sound in their lives. Also talking over each other, taking turns in a family. You know, you're all trying to get your point across. Just being mindful of that as well. I mean, it's all good family stuff. It's all just part of being in a loving group, as we take turns to talk, we pick up our stuff, we don't yell over each other. It's just a part of a lovely life. Yeah,
and sometimes, you know, you've got that toddler impulsivity, if that's a word, you know, where they're so impulsive and they just kind of jump in and ask you questions or interrupt conversations, and they have to learn to wait. And that, for some of them, can be a really big challenge of actually saying, well, actually, I'm talking with daddy right now, so you need to wait a minute, you know. And they're like, they don't kind of get it straight away. But I think if you're persistent with that, then they learn that they can't interrupt the conversation all the time, but definitely they're still valued and heard, and so they are going to be asked to contribute to the conversation. They're not talked over all the time, which I think we tend to do a lot as parents, where we kind of talk about them or talk over them and not join in them into a healthy conversation with us.
Yeah, we do, because it's just all happening at different levels to them, isn't it? So you've got to bring it back to their level. At my daughter's Montessori, the child would put their hand on the teacher's shoulder if they needed to talk to them. Yeah. And the teacher would quickly finish, because they don't have much of it's not patience, but they just need to talk to you within about 10 or 15 seconds when they're really little, don't they? So the teachers would always quickly stop and then turn and say, yes, what do you need? What can I help you with? Yeah. And I thought that was lovely, so that the child doesn't have to talk to you, they just touch you. And so having some sort of signal like that is really lovely too. Yeah, so that's fantastic. If I just walk up and hold mummy or daddy's elbow, they know I need to tell them something. Yeah. But do react quickly within about 30 seconds, because it's a long time to stand there and wait when you're just bursting to tell them something. That's right. Or that you need to tell them something. I don't know, little kids might need to go to the toilet or something, you know. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Okay. So it's about being conscious and aware yourself and just creating that for them. Yeah, and giving them the strategies, I guess, to be able to know what to do, instead of saying, you know, stop interrupting or, you know, whatever. It's actually giving them a positive way to be able to get your attention and reinforcing that. Yes. This has been really fantastic. I feel like I've learned heaps already, and you're obviously a wealth of information, not just because you've done your masters, but also because you're a mum, and you know, you obviously really spent a lot of time delving into this. So before we close, what I'd love to ask you is, have you got any top tips? And this doesn't have to be about anything to do with listening, it could be to do with anything, but what would be your top tip that you'd love to tell our toddler parents for how to really help their kids to develop as happy, healthy toddlers? My top tip. Can I do two? Okay. I'll do one. My top practical tip would be to always take food. If you're going out, take little healthy snacks, because things just turn to custard and you don't want to have to run in and buy some overpriced sugary thing for your child. Just always take a little box of pre-prepared stuff and a bottle of water. And my other tip, which might be more for the parents, and it's really directly relevant to my own journey, I really had to learn over the years to acknowledge that I needed help. I don't think being a mum of a toddler is a one-person job. I think a lot of the times you've got to have other people around to help, because it's full on, and you've probably been up 4 or 5 times in the night and you need help. So we're all taught as young people to be independent, get on with things, but actually when you become a mum, it might be time to go back to that kind of community spirit and pull in the help when you need it.
I love it. No parent is an island, and I think that it takes a village to raise a child, doesn't it? So I think that's an absolutely fantastic tip. So thanks for that. Now, if people want to hear more about what you do and get some more ideas, how do they find you?
I love talking to other parents. I do it a lot during the day. So the best place to start would be the Eardrops website. So that's just eardrops.co.nz. I've got quite an active Facebook community of parents. So we're often talking about stuff on Facebook on the Eardrops page, but there's links to that from the website. You can always pick up the phone and ring me and email me. I'm really happy to hear from people. And not just about eardrops as well, just parenting in general. I mean, I wrote for Littlelies for 5 years as a parenting writer. It's definitely an area I'm really passionate about. I think New Zealand has gone a long way in some areas, but we might have forgotten that it takes a village to raise a child, like you said. So I'm part of the village, and you can reach out to me anytime.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed our chat, and I know that our toddler parents are going to enjoy it as well. So have a really wonderful rest of your day, and thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks, Laura. You're welcome.